In the Norwich North by-election county in Norfolk. We can go live now to Westminster. Our political correspondent Emma Hutchinson is there. So Emma, is this the end then of the traditional election night, including all the drama that goes with it?
Well, very possibly it is. When we come to the general election expected next May, well, we might see a very different picture than that we've seen at general elections in the past. Rather than the votes being counted immediately after the polls close and the first results coming in at about 11 o'clock, with the results coming in, nearly all the results in by 3 or 4 in the morning, we might have to wait till the following day, the Friday, probably mid-Friday afternoon, to find out who our MPs are and indeed who the next government is. But it's something that most people don't seem to want. A poll out today says that 50% of all voters, when questioned, say they'd rather see the traditional election night, with votes being counted on the Thursday night. However, a number of councils have hinted that they definitely do intend to go for the Friday, including Broadland in Norfolk. They, of course, organised the Norwich North by-election count. That was held on a Friday. Apparently the reason for that was because it was easier to combat election fraud. There was more time to verify the number of postal votes they'd got in, check all the signatures, that kind of thing. They said it was a huge success. They intend to do the same in the general election. Many politicians would rather see the Thursday night counting remain.
Elections are about the mood of the nation. We've got a possibility of a change of government when the election comes. And I think the idea of just packing it in and waiting another 12 hours before we get the result is ridiculous. It's making politics into some kind of administrative convenience.
Emma, so what can MPs do about this?
Well, most MPs are agreed on this. They'd rather see the Thursday night counting. They're not sure there's much they can do because in the end it's actually up to the local councils to decide when they hold their general election counts. Of course, there's financial pressure as well. It's cheaper to have the counts on a Friday. But one MP said to me, well, the cost of a general election count for each council is about £5,000. That's what, once every 4 or 5 years. And most MPs believe that's a price worth paying.
Emma, thanks very much. Well, it's 12 minutes past 6. It's good to have you with us on Anglia tonight. Here's what's still to come.
Causing a flap, More news now from your part of the region, and a man has died after being pulled from the River Crouch in Essex. The emergency services and an RAF search and rescue helicopter were called after reports that a 21-year-old man had gone missing while swimming yesterday afternoon. He was pulled from the water near Hull Bridge and taken to Southend Hospital, where he died.
20 people were forced to leave their homes in Stowmarket in Suffolk last night following a fire at the Regal Cinema and Theatre. The blaze started in a yard outside but spread to the main building by around 10 o'clock. 6 teams of firefighters were called and gas engineers were needed to make safe a gas leak.
Norwich City Council says it's likely to make significant job cuts to help save around £8 million. The Labour-run authority needs to find a sum equal to about 15% of its turnover to balance the books. Staff will be consulted on any job losses from October.
Network Rail claim they'd previously asked a landowner to remove a tree which yesterday fell onto power lines over a train carrying more than 300 passengers.
The incident just outside of Chelmsford caused serious disruption on the line from London to Essex, Suffolk and Norfolk. Tom Barton has more on that story.
A train stands motionless on the track on the outskirts of Chelmsford, halted after a tree fell onto the power lines overhead. On board are between 300 and 400 passengers.
What had happened was a tree had fallen on the overhead power lines and come to rest on the top of the train, and the tree had caught fire. The crews had dealt with that fairly quickly and put the fire out, but that had disabled the power supply to the train, which meant it was stuck.
Trains running in and out of Liverpool Street on the main line towards Norwich were also stopped. This was the worst possible time, just before the evening rush hour. Many people reported significant delays to their journeys home from work. As for the people on board, they were evacuated with the help of the fire service onto a train which took them back to Chelmsford station.
Well, we basically used the ladders from our fire appliances to assist people down from the train and walk them along a safe passage at the side of the permanent way and use the ladders again to put passengers back onto the new train.
Now, Network Rail say that the tree which fell over wasn't on their land. They say it was actually on the land of a private landowner who they had in the past asked to cut this tree down because they were concerned that it posed a risk. As it turned out, it did. It fell over and caused all of that disruption yesterday. Both rail operator National Express and Network Rail have apologised for the disruption yesterday, but say they got trains moving again as soon as they possibly could. Tom Barton, Anglia News, Chelmsford.
2 men have been arrested after 9 suspected illegal immigrants were found in a van at Harwich International Port this morning. Officers searched the van after it arrived on a ferry from Holland. 9 people, all Indian, were found among boxes. The 2 men are being interviewed at Clacton Police Station.
Meanwhile, an attempt to smuggle 1 million counterfeit cigarettes into Felixstowe port in Suffolk has been foiled. The UK Border Agency says the cigarettes, which had been shipped from China, were hidden among industrial electric fans. Officers say they can sometimes contain rat droppings.
Police stations across Norfolk could see their opening hours reduced. If new proposals go ahead, all the county's 35 stations would close at 7 p.m, with some smaller rural ones closing for 3 days a week. Norfolk Police say the money will be reinvested in frontline policing.
An historic Norwich church has been forced to close its doors after a burst water main threatened to collapse a wall.
The congregation of St Stephen's on Rampant Horse Street near Chapelfield Shopping Centre will move elsewhere for up to 6 months while repairs are carried out. Serena Sandu's been to see the damage.
Tranquil and picturesque, with ornate stained glass. St Stephen's Church has been in Norwich since the 14th century, but now it's at risk.
It's gone right through this stone, and then it follows up the wall, and it's been widening. The stress presumably goes through the window, and then it cracks at the top of the window.
This crack is just a symptom of what's happening underground. The foundations have been weakened after a burst water main in nearby Malthouse Road in May.
We put proper markers which could be measured quite accurately to see just how much it was moving each week, and it hasn't really stopped moving yet.
Anglian Water have investigated the leak and say they'll foot the bill for the repairs, which are likely to last for 6 months. This medieval stained glass window will have to be removed and re-erected piece by piece. Services will be relocated to a nearby hall.
We're beginning to grow as a church, and so it's going to be a big challenge for us to move from here, but we hope that it will also draw us much closer together.
It's hoped the work will help preserve this historic church for hundreds of years to come. Serena Sandu, Anglia News, Norwich.
Sir Bobby Robson's widow, Lady Elsie Robson, says she's been overwhelmed by the scale of donations to his charity since his death. More than £156,000 has been donated to the Sir Bobby Robson Foundation since he lost his battle with cancer in July. The charity has now raised more than £1.6 million for research into cancer in a year and a half.